Okay, today we're going to take a look at the Omnibot 2000. This is the largest of the Omnibot series. Before we get into the robot though, I thought I'd show you something that maybe many of you have never seen. But the accessory port jacks on the back of this robot. As you can see, here's a sheet that talks about the extra accessories that they were planning on selling. I've never actually saw any of these accessories. Oops, it's slipping out of the bag. Just a minute, try to keep it all in there. So extra sensors and devices. You know, there's the switches on the back of the robot that disable the wheel motors and jacks for plugging in. And then there's also a consumer parts list where you could order spare parts for your Omnibot. Check out those prices, really reasonable. I can't read it when it's on the viewfinder, I'll read it out here. So rechargeable battery, $17.50, that's not such a great deal. Home base, that's a piece of cardboard, 75 cents. The motorized tray though, 30 bucks. Wow, there's a lot of the motor, all the gears, the switches, the cabling. Master control unit, I guess that's the remote control, the MCU, $25. I know a lot of you would probably pay that for it. Charger, 9 bucks, instruction manual, 75 cents. So, you could order all of that good stuff to go with your Omnibot. And of course, here's the big manual, and I don't know that we're going to go through it because look how thick that puppy is. There's 48 pages. 48 pages of wonderful information. So, we may go through a little of that in the end. The home base thing they're talking about is this piece of cardboard that you can sit on the floor to start your robot out. So when you program your robot to move, every time you want it to perform that same function, you could put it back on this home base and make sure you had everything lined up right. Because it doesn't have any way of correcting itself if it gets off course. Let's take a look at the back before we even get into anything else. So, let's get a little closer, angle down. So here you can kind of see the charge port, the motor kill switches, and the RCA jacks that you saw. On which one? On the Hero, or Hearoid, I mean. Then underneath this flap, there's even more little buttons and selectors and gizmos and things. And of course down below that you have a drawer where you can keep the charger. That's not quite in screen, is it? Where you can keep the charger, and a place where you can keep the remote. So, now as far as things to troubleshoot on your Omnibot, let's move back. Tilt up. Still not back far enough to get the whole thing in frame, are we? How's yowza, how's that? It's pretty much in frame. So on the Omnibot, when it powers up, it has to home. Well, it homes its head back normal. It has the one arm that can raise, and the wrist can rotate, and the clock can open and close. This one over here is just posable. This one over here is motorized, and all of those axes have to home into the home position. If they fail to home, you can't do anything with the robot. It's just a boat anchor then. So after having sat for over 35 years now, the little battery motors in here didn't particularly want to run, so I had to open this arm up to just spin the motors by hand while they were trying to home to get them to go through that sequence. You know when it's homed right because it'll make a beep beep sound. Like that. So now everything is homed, and that means if I have it in RC mode, and if I take the MCU and turn it on, That means it can now use these controls to do different things. For example, this would be forward, this would be backward, left, right. Then this button will change the gears. So if you're trying to do something more controlled, see how now it's got a lot more power, moves a lot slower. So you get the gearbox. Then below that you can start and stop the cassette tape, Omnibot sounds. And down here you can turn the eye lights on and off, like so. And over here you've got head left and right. I guess this would be head right. And then here'd be head left. And then up above this you're going to have the finger gripper open and close. This is going to be arm up and down and then wrist rotate. So this would be arm raise. Like I say, if that motor doesn't work, it can't complete that startup sequence, and then you can't do anything. Now let's rotate the gripper so you can see how it rotates. And this should be open and close. Like that. So now I'll give you a chance to see that startup sequence. We'll turn it off. We'll turn it back on. We'll see things boot up. And it does them one at a time. So until the arm is homed, it won't go to the next one. Now it's closing the claw. And now it's rotating the wrist. And now it says everything is fine. It also will shift the gears. I believe it always starts off in high. Let's check. I'll back it up. Yep, because I heard the gear shift thing run. And it comes with a motorized tray, which has two electrical contacts that when you push it into the slot in the front of the robot, it's sort of locked in there. Now there is a flat plate that you can set over this tray like that if you just want to use it as a completely flat tray to drive things around. If you use the complete motorized function, then there's a series of rings on here which circle around when this button over here is pushed. But you can, let's just open fingers, for example. I don't really have a cup small enough. This cup is too big to fit inside the ring. It's sort of balanced on the top of the ring. And let's see, arm up. Oops. Because the cup is too big, I'm having problems. So I'm going to kind of help it. And then I'm going to finger gripper close, like so. And then I can do arm up. So the idea is that if you had a cup small enough to fit in there, I just don't have anything out here, then you could take it and you could pour the drink and ruin your robot. Or you could take it and hand it to somebody. Why, thank you, Omnibot. Now, the other functions on the Omnibot 2000 are going to be the same as on the Omnibot, the smaller one, and as on the Robbie Senior from Radio Shack version, in that you have a tape deck here, which you can put a tape in. You can use any cassette tape, and it'll record the tones, the commands, if you will, from this, and that's how you would program it. It's going to store the commands on that tape, and when you play them back, then it will perform those. You've got, let's see if we can close in on these buttons, just in case you haven't seen these. Having the camera on a tripod's not always the best option, but that's what we've got today. So maybe that will show it. So I'll have your standard mechanical cassette controls, and then you've got, how'd they label it? RC, program, and tape. When you're in tape mode, it means you could put a tape in there and just play it back through the speaker, you know, like music or something if you wanted. Program mode means it's going to take what's recorded on the tape, if it has control tones on it, and control the robot. In this case, you can control the arm and the motion of the robot. And of course, you have the full clock, hour, day, month, year, so you could program it to perform a function that you had written that anytime you wanted it to power up and do that. If your master volume control, and over here you do have a microphone input, if you wanted to input a mic. You know, I haven't tried it. I believe there's a mic button on here. Let's turn the volume down. If you get feedback, you can always test, test, test. 1, 2, testing. Yeah, let's get further back. Kind of hard to do this by yourself. Well, I know why we can't get far enough back. We were zoomed. Okay. Maybe now we can see more things. Test, test, 1, 2. So the eyes flash as you talk. And the same thing would happen while you'd be driving the thing, playing back a function. So, that is pretty much it for the Omnibot 2000. I mean, we've got the gigantic box. If you've never seen the box that comes with it before, we'll try to get some of that on camera, if possible. Yeah. There. This is basically would be the back side, but it's naming all the different functions there. And down here they're showing the different Omnibot series. And Tomy toys that they had available at the time. Here's what the side of the box would look like. This would be the front of the box. It was a fairly expensive toy when it came out. I'm trying to remember. I've seen some things online that claimed it was like a $600 toy. I can't imagine that it would have been actually $600 because I never would have bought it if it was. For $600, I would have taken that money to build projects. I was very much into building like my Robie the robots and Lost in Space robots and all those things back in the 1980s, and spending that much money on a toy when I could spend it to build something wouldn't be the way I'd go. If you want to look at the bottom of the robot, things will clang around in that case in the back like the battery charger, but what the heck, right? Yeah. So here's the bottom. Let's take the camera off the tripod. See if there's anything down here of interest for any of you. Come on. There we go. So you can see you've got basically 4 drive wheels and 2 casters. There is some text down here, albeit I can't read it with my eyes, but I'm assuming the camera's catching some of it. But it does say Tomy. So that's the back side. If you've never seen the back side of a Tomy before, now that we got the camera free, let's go ahead and you can take a look back here. Here's this those extra connectors I was telling you about. I have no idea. There's some very small print there in the plastic, which again, I can't read with my naked eyes, but the camera should be able to catch it. And here's your back. You always need to make sure you have these switches up so the motors are enabled. If they're down, the robot won't work. And of course, this is the screw you open to get into the 6-volt battery. If you guys have never seen that, we'll go ahead and let me pop this open. Okay. So, here's what we're talking about. This is the back panel in this case because of all those things. It's tethered with some cables. Here's your main fuse. Here's the 2 batteries for the clock function, which you do have to have installed. And here's the 6-volt battery and how it fits right in there. And like I said, if you ever have to make up a battery for one of these Omnibot toys, the only thing you want to make sure you do is the outside barrel is positive. The inside barrel is negative. And you make sure you get that right and you'll be okay. And a couple of dollar store batteries on the clock. Let's pop those out since I'm done in there. And there you have it.